Today we will discuss the most important questions from the Little Match Girl. It will help you in your board exam. So without a further delay, let's get started. 1. How was the weather on the last evening of the year? The weather on the last evening of the year was bitterly cold, with snow falling and darkness gathering, as it was New Year's Eve. 2. What happened to the little girl's slippers? The little girl lost her slippers when she ran across the street to escape from two carriages that were being driven terribly fast. One slipper could not be found, and a boy ran off with the other. 3. What happened when the little girl lit her first matchstick? When the little girl lit her first matchstick, she had a vision of a warm, bright flame like a tiny candle. It seemed to her as if she was sitting in front of a great iron stove with polished brass knobs and brass ornaments. The fire burnt beautifully and gave out a lovely warmth, but the vision vanished when the match went out. 4. What did the little girl's grandmother say about the falling star? The little girl's grandmother had told her that whenever a star falls, a soul goes up to God. When the little girl saw a falling star, she believed that someone was dying, as her grandmother had said, whenever a star falls, a soul goes up to God. 5. Whose death does the falling star signify? The falling star does not signify any specific person's death. The little girl believes that someone is dying because her grandmother had told her that a falling star means a soul is going up to God. However, the story does not mention any specific person's death. 6. Why was the last vision important for the little girl? The last vision was important for the little girl because it showed her a world of warmth, love, and joy, which she had never experienced in her cold, harsh reality. It gave her a glimpse of the happiness and comfort that would be hers if only she could find a way to stay in that beautiful place with her grandmother. 7. Explain her relationship with her grandmother. The little girl's relationship with her grandmother was the only positive and loving connection she had in her life. Her grandmother was the only person who had ever been kind to her and shown her affection. The little girl loved her grandmother deeply and wanted to stay with her in the beautiful place they visited in her visions. 8. How appropriate is the title of the story? The title of the story, The Little Match Girl, is appropriate because it highlights the importance of the matchsticks in the story. The matches symbolize the little girl's only means of earning money, her connection to her grandmother, and her way to experience moments of warmth and beauty in her cold, harsh life. 9. Why did the little match girl not go home? The little match girl did not go home because she was afraid of the consequences of not having earned any money and the certain beating her father would give her. She also knew that going home would mean facing the cold and hunger that she had been experiencing all day. 10. With reference to the story, bring out the theme of class differentiation. The theme of class differentiation in the story is evident in the contrast between the little girl's life and the beautiful visions she experiences. The story highlights the harsh reality of the little girl's life, where she is poor and alone, and the moments of happiness and warmth she finds through her visions. This contrast emphasizes the importance of understanding and addressing social inequalities and the impact they have on people's lives. 11. Explain the symbolism used in the story. Iron stove. When the little girl in the story lit her first matchstick, she could feel the warmth and safety which she longed for. She felt like sitting beside an iron stove. This is also symbolic of feelings of being loved which she got from her grandmother only. Christmas tree. The Christmas tree that the little girl saw in her vision was huge, brightly lit and beautifully decorated. It was something that could be found only in a wealthy home. This is a sign of undying life, rebirth and stamina needed to endure the winter months. The little girl in the story tried to survive in the extremely cold winter night by lighting matches. Falling star. This has been referred to in the story by the little girl as a symbol of a soul ascending to God. She had heard from her grandmother that whenever a star falls, a soul climbs up to God from the earth. This falling star was symbolic of the death of the little match girl herself. Matches. The matches constitute an important role in the story. They not only were responsible for helping the little girl earn money but also were a symbol of warmth and hope. The matches have given the little girl warmth on the cold winter night as well as made her feel the warmth of love which she was longing for. Cold. The cold on New Year's Eve is symbolic of hardship, desperation and hopelessness. The little girl in the story was out on the street on a terribly cold winter night. She did not have enough warm clothes or shoes to protect herself from the cold. Her hands and feet became numb with cold, and ultimately, she froze to death because of being exposed to such terrible weather conditions. It could also symbolize the cold treatment towards the poor. 12. Describe the visions seen by the little girl. The little girl sees 4 visions through the matches. In the first vision, she sees a warm stove with polished brass knobs and brass ornaments, which gives out a lovely warmth. In the second vision, she sees a beautiful room with a shining white cloth spread on the table, covered with beautiful china, and a roast goose stuffed with prunes and apples, steaming deliciously. The goose hops down from the dish, waddles across the floor with carving knife and fork in its back, and waddles straight up to the poor child. In the third vision, she sees the most beautiful Christmas tree, much larger and much lovelier than the one she had seen last year through the glass doors of the rich merchant's house. 1,000 candles lit up the green branches, and gaily colored balls like those in the shop windows looked down upon her. The many candles on the Christmas tree rose higher and higher through the air, and she saw that they had now turned into bright stars. One of them fell, streaking the sky with light. In the final vision, she sees her old grandmother, oh, so bright and shining, and looking so gentle, kind, and loving. Her grandmother takes her in her arms and flies with her high up towards glory and joy. 13. Why did the little girl light the whole bundle of matches at the end? The little girl lit the whole bundle of matches at the end because she was desperate to keep the vision of her grandmother and the warmth and love she experienced in that moment. She knew that the matches were her only source of warmth and light, and she was willing to sacrifice them all to stay in that beautiful place with her grandmother, away from the cold, hunger, and loneliness of her harsh reality. It was a poignant and desperate attempt to hold on to the fleeting moments of happiness and comfort that the matches had brought her. 14. Explain the character sketch of the little girl. The little girl in The Little Match Girl is a poor, vulnerable, and hopeful child, wandering the cold streets on New Year's Eve. She longs for warmth and love, as seen in her visions and her love for her grandmother. Despite her difficult circumstances, she shows a quiet strength and a desire for a better life. Her character evokes empathy and reflects the challenges faced by the less fortunate. 15. Were the images that the girl saw real? What were they actually? The images that the girl saw were not real, but rather visions created by her imagination, fueled by the warmth and light provided by the matches she was trying to sell. The first vision was of a warm stove with polished brass knobs and brass ornaments, the second was of a beautiful room with a shining white cloth spread on the table, and the third was of the most beautiful Christmas tree she had ever seen. In each vision, she experienced moments of warmth, love, and joy, which were not present in her real life. These visions were a reflection of her longing for a better life and a way to escape the harsh reality she faced. 16. What is the role of people in the story? What does it signify? In the story The Little Match Girl, the people serve as a representation of the societal indifference and lack of empathy towards the less fortunate. Throughout the narrative, the girl wanders the cold streets trying to sell matches, but the people she encounters show no compassion or willingness to help her. Their indifference signifies a broader societal issue of neglect towards the impoverished and vulnerable. The lack of support from the people around her accentuates the girl's isolation and the harshness of her circumstances, highlighting the story's underlying themes of social inequality and the need for compassion and understanding. 17. Faith and hope reside in the heart of the little girl. Elaborate on this sentence. The sentence faith and hope reside in the heart of the little girl refers to the little girl's unwavering belief in a better life and her ability to find moments of warmth and joy in her visions. Despite her difficult circumstances, the little girl retains a sense of purity and hope, as seen in her visions and her love for her grandmother. Her faith and hope are evident in her willingness to light the matches, even though she knows that they are her only source of warmth and light. Through her visions, the little girl finds moments of comfort and joy, which reflect her yearning for a better life. The sentence highlights the resilience and strength of the human spirit, even in the face of adversity, and the power of imagination to find hope and beauty in even the darkest of situations.